Hi Zoe, I've just been having a look at your laminitis draft and I've got some feedback for you on it. And I just want to draw your attention to this section of the CA cover sheet that you've filled in and signed. If you read this, you can see that it says you're certifying that the work isn't plagiarised, and it's really important that you do that. This is a significant proportion of a third year project. You're going to end up getting a large chunk of marks for the module, and it's really important that you take this seriously. But if we have a look at your Moodle page for this, this is your plagiarism report on Turnitin for this work, and looking down through it you can see just how heavily plagiarised it is. It's really disappointing. You had your module last year on applied writing skills and how to do it, and how to reference and cite correctly, and it's just very disappointing to see work submitted in final year with this level of direct plagiarism in it, where you've just lifted chunks of text straight from another source and pretended they're your own rather than rewriting them. It's not enough just stick a citation on the end. You're not, just not acceptable. This work is heavily plagiarised, and if you submit it like this for your final grade, you're going to be referred to a plagiarism panel, unfortunately. So I'm just giving you a heads up on it now. It's very disappointing. It's just not acceptable. If I have a look at the participants on the module, so if I go into here and look at your report, this is your outline report for this module. And looking at it, I've put a lot of resources up here to help you in the continuous assessment section. And it's disappointing to see that you haven't used any of them. So all the advice I've given you on how to find good quality information, how to cite and reference correctly, a lot of which is revision, and where to find good quality resources, you haven't looked at any of them. Likewise, looking down through the lectures I'm given, you're not making much use of the resources here. Looking at the medical nursing and equine athlete modules, you haven't looked at any of this, even the sections that apply to the topic you've picked, which is very, very disappointing. Looking at the work itself, if I go down to your references list, I've highlighted in yellow references that are either lecture notes or are from articles that aren't peer reviewed, that are aimed for horse owners rather than the professional audience you're meant to be writing for here. And you can see that the vast majority of them are highlighted in yellow, so you haven't got the depth of research that you need to produce a accurate and evidence-based guide for nurses on this topic. Looking down through the work itself, there's a lot of areas where you haven't put in citations. So for example, you're talking about a UK study here where 8,000 horses are reported to experience laminitis every year, but you haven't put a citation in there. Likewise, you're referring to a study from the US and haven't put your citation in there. So look, this just isn't acceptable. You are expected to write and submit work in a professional manner that is, beyond what we'd expect of a student, say, in first year. You're close to entering the profession now, so it's disappointing to see this. The other thing is, a lot of the information you're putting in is a little bit vague, and it's just indicating you haven't referred to the veterinary literature to base your information here on, because a lot of it is inaccurate. Like, for example, we don't commonly give conscious horses morphine and pethidine due to their side effects. I mean, you've had a module analgesia in the last semester, so I'd expect you to have a good handle on pain relief in horses now, even allowing for the fact that we covered pain scoring in this module and talked about multimodal analgesia. The other thing is, you haven't really specified, the origins of cryotherapy. According to this, it started in 1978, but it's been widely reported before that. And you haven't said, how you identify a horse that's at risk of laminitis that might benefit from it. And then in terms of how you've laid it out, these tables aren't a suitable way to present your information. The writing is very small, it's hard to read. As you can see, the formatting is getting all messed up. You need to put in the images one by one, make them big enough to be easy to see, and then if you put in an image and right click on it, you get up this option here to wrap the text and put the text top and bottom rather than tight, and that way you can make the picture bigger. And then when you want to put a caption on it, go up to insert and insert caption, and then write in your figure 1 whatever the information is going to be plus your citation. It's just hard to follow the way it's laid out currently, and stuff's going to keep moving around. Reading down through it, then you've talked about how cryotherapy works and how to assess horses for pain. Again, I didn't develop this equine nursing pain scale. It's from GlearUp, which is clear on the resources I gave to you. So, not citing and reference this correctly. You're not only plagiarising GlearUp, you're now plagiarising my lecture notes as well. So it's just not on. You're going to have to go back and rework this extensively. The other thing is, if you are putting in direct quotations, you need to put in the page number, and the whole thing is just a little bit all over the place. It's not clear. I think because you haven't researched the veterinary literature, it's written more like a recommendation of various ways of providing cryotherapy rather than focusing on, how you would actually integrate this into a care plan for a nurse that was looking after an analytic case in the hospital. So I'm afraid you have a lot more work to do on this still. It's currently written, if you were to submit it, you wouldn't pass, and you'd be ending up in front of a plagiarism panel. So I'm afraid you're going to have to go back to the drawing board. The topic itself is fine. It's definitely an area that the vet nurse can be involved in and can integrate into a patient care plan, but I think you need to go back and do a lot more groundwork, both in relation to what we covered in the module and in terms of your research, and integrating it together into an assignment that's going to meet the criteria I've given you for this piece of work. So I'm going to leave it there, Zoe. I'm hoping you'll take this seriously now and get stuck into it. It's disappointing that you're in this position, but you still have time to do something about it, and I hope you will. Okay, thanks.